Hey everybody, Heath here. I just got done playing a little bit of Metroid Prime Federation Force. Now if you know me, you know I'm a big fan of the Metroid games. I plan to do a Metroid playthrough, chronological playthrough of all the games at one point. But I wanted to give this game a try. It's probably one of the most controversial Metroid games. I'm not going to say the most because we already know what the most is.
What do you mean?
What I mean to say is that this game came out to a lot of negative press. I have a couple of reasons. One, it was a spin-off game. There was no direct playing as video game's first #1 heroine, Samus Aran, and two, this art style. No, it's not. It's just not. Now, when it came out, it got so many dislikes and negative comments on Nintendo's channel that they had to disable the rating system on it, and even still, they've done several statements released and several different videos released. They're trying to at least calm people's fears over whether or not this game will be good. I gave in to it. I decided, okay, I'll pre-order this game because essentially in one of the statements, Keisuke Tanabe, who is the producer on Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 2, Metroid Prime 3, and the Metroid Prime trilogy, essentially said just that. I am the producer of three of the greatest Metroid Prime games, or Metroid games in general, ever made. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. I know how to make a good game. And I went, yeah, he's got a point. I mean, he hasn't screwed up yet. But at the same time, we kind of said that same thing about Yoshio Sakamoto, right? I mean, we said this is the guy that directed Super Metroid. He did Metroid Zero Mission. He did Metroid Fusion. The dude knows how to make Metroid games. We should give him a break on Other M. Other M is going to be really good, right? And then it turns out he's a little bit of a control freak when it comes to movie creation, and Metroid Other M was not good.
Samus, do you copy? Samus! Samus, use your plasma beam!
No!
What's your status?
You can't be!
Samus, do you read me?
That being the case, I can appreciate Tanabe's take on Metroid. Sakamoto has really always been obsessed with the Samus storyline. On the other hand, you can see even in the original Metroid Prime that Tanabe and Retro Studios have a much larger interest in the bigger scaled world and greater universe that is the Metroid universe and the Space Pirates. Metroid Prime, the first game for GameCube, really was almost a game to set the scene and to convince you through logs and what have you that the Space Pirates themselves actually were a pretty prominent menace to the galaxy, and this to frame them as to why, how, culturally, and why there just is no talking them down from their aggressive state towards the rest of everyone in existence. I've kind of appreciated that out of the Metroid Prime games, and I can kind of appreciate what Tanabe was shooting for with Federation Force, because he wanted to always see the Metroid universe through someone other than Samus's eyes, to see how the Federation has to deal with the space pirate menace and the Metroids kind of without her, and why they have to call her in. And I can appreciate that quite a bit, but there's some issues that arise still with it. First and foremost, the real big issue with Metroid Prime Federation Force, out of the bit that I've played it, I've played Blast Ball, I've played the first mission solo, is that it's not really even the graphics. You can get past the graphics, right? It would have been better if it was more in line with what was done with Metroid Prime Hunters, but still, isn't what killed the game. What kills the game, to me, is the controls. And I find that really ironic because Tanabe has released several videos saying how important it was for him to figure out how to do controls properly or do controls easily for all kinds of gamers, even himself, because he's not good at first-person shooters. I don't know. I started to play this game and the default control setting is like they try to reinvent the wheel or something. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, wait a second, we're hearkening back to really Metroid Prime 1 gameplay settings. You know, there was only one analog stick on the GameCube controller, so pushing forward and back moved you front and back, but hitting left and right turned you as opposed to strafing. And that's kind of what the same mechanic in Federation Force is going on. You have to hold R to look around, and this is where it gets screwed up though, because it doesn't use that left analog stick to look around anymore. You can continue moving with that, and you use gyro controls, motion controls to aim. It's very okay. It feels alright, especially if you're used to Splatoon on the Wii U, but honestly, when you're in a giant circular room and you have to spin around essentially with a gyroscope to aim, it's not good. Now, I have a new 3DS. It has a C-stick on the right side of it, which, you know, I was like, okay, let's see how this works. Well, in these standard controls, it kind of works like a broken D-pad. You can only really press up and down on it to look up and look down, and even then, it's not good. It's not responsive, and if you hit left or right, nothing happens, which screws you up, because intuitively you want to do diagonal controls as you look up and down to scan the area, and you can't. The C is like turned off on the C stick, which just makes it feel bad. Now, happily, that being said, there is control option 2, which if you just look at it on the screen, it makes a hell of a lot more sense. It's basically uses the default shooter controls that the entire world has adopted and gotten used to with dual analog sticks. But this is still comes down to a problem. It's not so much a problem in Blast Ball, I was finding out, because so much of Blast Ball you use lock-on to shoot the ball itself. But when you get into the actual campaign mode, I have found that this is the second killer of the game. The game itself plays about the way it looks. And I don't know if you understand what I mean when I say that, but when I say, look at the game, look at these visuals that you're looking at right now, you see how short and squatty and blocky and slow the whole game looks? The enemies attack you that way. Nothing attacks you quickly. You move that way. You don't move quickly. You don't jump quickly. There's sluggishness to the entire game, and on top of that, it has controls to match. The C-stick is so exceptionally sluggish, even in Control Style B, where it was meant to be used for turning, that I found my hand cramping as my thumb was pressing on the C-stick, just really experimenting, trying to figure out what kind of input is it expecting me to give it to turn or look around. I can't figure it out. Every time I actually had better luck looking up than I ever did when I would press down the C-stick to get it point back downward. It was almost like the sensitivity between looking up and looking down was completely off. And I don't really know if that is the case, or if, maybe that was done on purpose so you don't look down at the floor and not shoot forward or something. I don't know. But one thing I do know for sure is that it feels freaking god-awful. It feels terrible to play. That being the case, I also played the first level solo, and they say solo is supposed to be much more difficult. And yeah, it was more difficult, but the thing is, it wasn't difficult for the reason it should have been. It should have been difficult because I had, a bajillion things flying at me, and a giant monster boss to beat. No, it was more difficult because I couldn't turn. The controls weren't responding. The character wasn't responding. That sort of thing was what was made it difficult. And as you can probably see here, the enemies are kind of, they just walk around and walk up to you and let you shoot them dead. It feels like a game, even especially without with the lack of voice acting. There's just text there. It feels like a game that had an incredibly low budget to it. It feels like a shooter game that you could find similar experiences and maybe even better ones through a first-person shooter on the Nintendo 3DS eShop. That's what it feels like, and that's not good to say. I'm not happy to say that. And look, I can actually appreciate the desire to expand the Metroid universe. I actually appreciate it a lot. I really agree with it. I think it's a great universe that deserves to be expanded upon, like almost all sci-fi universes. But this is where problem number 3 that I'm seeing, or 4, I'm kind of lost count now at this point. I'm calling shenanigans. I don't really see how this expands the universe of the Metroid. Think about this for a second. Who are we playing as? Generic, no-name characters in mechs? Are you going to tell me this expands the universe as much as the memorable characters like Weevil and Silex and Noxix and all those characters from the Metroid Prime Hunters games? What about Gandrada and Gore and all that from even Metroid Prime 3 Corruption, which he actually just worked on? He knows how he knows that adds so much more to the universe to actually create a character than nothing. If this game was designed so we could see a day in the life of the Federation troops and forces themselves, you could almost argue that actually maybe Sakamoto did that better with Other M. I mean, there's a list of actual Marines in Other M. Now, granted, the only one we actually liked was Anthony, but still, I mean, there's people here, and names and faces and thought were put into who they were, versus Red Mech, Blue Mech, 1 Mech, 2 Mech. I don't understand how that's supposed to make a better universe or a better game. It reeks of very little thought being put into it, very little care being put into it, very, very low budget. And when you're coming off Other M, 6 years ago was the last time we had a major Samus-driven introduction or installment into the series, and we're waiting for the game to return to form, the whole franchise to return to form, and you're putting out this weird kind of really a glorified Metroid version of the Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. No, these mech characters, they're not even Federation soldiers. They're mechs, the most generic sci-fi thing that has no personality whatsoever. They add about as much to the Metroid universe as Blue Toad and Yellow Toad add to the Super Mario Bros. Universe, and I can pretty much guarantee you no one thinks they add. No one thinks they add. They're awful. So, I don't know. I'm going to keep playing the game. I'm going to give it another shot, and I'm going to do some online play, and I'll do a full review when I get it done. But for the time being, this isn't looking good, guys. But holding out hope that whatever the appeal of the Metroid Prime Federation Force, the lasting appeal of it will be in the online play, which I have not yet experienced. But I'll get back to that in the coming days. But thank you guys for watching this video. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. I love you. By the way, full disclosure, I took all these videos you're seeing off of other people's YouTube channels. All that source material is in the description below. I would love to have recorded my own gameplay, but I don't have a capture card. So if you want to give me money for a capture card, that's cool. I don't even have a place to do that yet. PM me or something, and I'll set that up, and I'll set up a GoFundMe or something. But anyways, thank you guys for joining me. I'll see you next time. Later. Bye.